space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. Welcome to our computer-delivered IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare for computer-delivered IELTS. For each section, there's a clock at the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. The instructions for each part are in the box at the top of the screen. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. Click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and color of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the IDP IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading and writing.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Lilette, and I will be your host, moderator for tonight, for today's session. And together with me are some of my colleagues from Vietnam, and then also from Malaysia, from Thailand. So once again, welcome to our session, and welcome to our IDP IELTS Masterclass Webinar with our returning IELTS expert, Jacqueline Fisher. So Jacqueline Fisher will be guiding you through our IELTS listening, reading, writing, and speaking skills. So stay tuned with us for some amazing tips. Without further ado, let us welcome Jacqueline. Welcome back, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much, Lilette. That's a very nice introduction, as always. It's great to be here this afternoon or this evening. We're a little bit earlier. We've changed our time. So I hope you're all well. I see quite a lot of people are joining us this evening, afternoon. I'm here in Singapore, even though I look like I'm in a hobbit house. This is just one of my favorite backdrops. So where are you all joining us from today? This is a regional webinar, so I know you could be from many different places. Do you want to let me know in the chat box? I'm going to ask you to type lots of things in the chat box so we can interact. Philippines, India, that's nice. Singapore, a few from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, wow, across the region, that's great. Vietnam, how lovely. Thanks so much for joining us today. Oh, someone from Laos. That we don't get many people from Laos, so it's very nice to have you here. Sri Lanka, how great. Thank you. So I'm joined this evening with some good friends. Lilette, there's Na from Vietnam, and Ruchi Khan from Thailand. I'm not sure if I said your name properly, and Diva from Malaysia, and they're going to help me. So if you have questions through this session, you can put them in the chat box, then I'll be able to see them. If you type your questions in the Q&A box, you can do that too, but one of my friends will probably answer them because it's hard for me to look at that. Of course, at the end, if there are any unanswered questions, I'll definitely answer those because this session is really for you. So today we're going to be looking at the IELTS test, and I'm going to give you lots of tips and suggestions about how you can get that band score that you need. We also have Son Mai from Vietnam as well. Thank you so much. So she's he or she is helping us out as well. So yeah, so a bit about me. Lilette already gave a nice introduction. I've been working with IELTS for quite a long time, coming up to almost 15 years. So I'm quite confident I'll be able to answer all your questions. And so today, really what we're going to focus on is I'm going to give you lots of tips because, you know, the thing about IELTS is that if you do what the examiners want, they'll give you the band, they'll give you the score. So that's, the more you understand that, the better. And really understanding the scoring too, that's really important. So we'll talk quite a bit about that. And of course, avoiding those mistakes. That's what we're going to talk about. You should have been emailed some notes, and I will refer to those as we go through as well. So yeah, so this is really your session as well. So there are quite a lot of us here, but feel free to type your questions in the chat box and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. And then at the end, if there are leftover questions, I will also answer them. I'm happy to stay longer than the 2 hours, but of course, if you need to leave after 2 hours, that's fine as well. We have a lot to cover, so I can't always get through everything. Yeah. So sometimes we have polls, but tonight I don't think I'm going to use the polls so much. I'm just going to ask you questions in the chat box and get your answers there. So yeah, so just a little bit, yes, so just to refer to the masterclass pack. Yeah, so I will sort of mention this all the way through. It's great if you can spend some time looking at this in detail. We have some really good models that you can refer to see what is a good answer. And there are also some models that got sort of like scores in the middle bands, and you can see why that is. There are some good comments from the examiners. So this is a really useful pack to refer to. So yeah, so just to go through the aims again for this evening. When we're working with IELTS, of course, we need to practice the IELTS tests, very important. But it's also, to do well, you really need to bring as much English into your life as you can. Surround yourself with English, reading, listening, speaking as much as you can. So as I said, practice tests are important, but it's not just about the practice tests. And today we'll look at quite a lot about what the examiners are listening for or reading for, and the skills you need and the mistakes to avoid. So yes, my first question to you here is, which test are you planning to do? Are you planning to do academic or general? Yeah. Can everyone see my screen? Some people said they can't see the screen. Yeah, well, we have quite a lot of academics, I can see. A few generals, but lots of academics coming through. Okay, great. Well, this evening we're going to talk about both tests, and some of them are exactly the same and some are a bit different. So we're going to talk about both. And if you're not sure which one should I do, academic was designed for people who want to study at an English-speaking university or college, that kind of thing. And general was originally designed for migration, if you want to live in an English-speaking country or work in an English-speaking country. So that's the original design. But most important is you check with the organization that you're doing your IELTS for, find out which one you need to do. Yeah, so can you just let me know that if you can see my screen? I just got a message that they couldn't see my screen. Yes, I thought you could. Okay, I'm not sure for that person who can't. If you're on a phone, sometimes you have to swipe up to see. All right, good. Thank you so much, everybody. Very responsive. Yay. Okay, so the next thing I want to know, is about the band score that you need. So IELTS has these 9 bands. Now, what is the minimum that you need? Of course, we all want the highest possible, but what's the minimum that you need? 7? I see a lot of 7s, 8s, 6.5s. Okay. Oh, someone needs a 9. 9 is a perfect score. I wonder why you need a 9. Goodness me. Maybe you want a 9. I don't know if you need a 9. Okay, so I see a lot of 7s and 8s. Okay, some 6.5s. So what does that mean, these numbers? So 7 is a good user of English and 8 is very good. Yeah, 6 is competent. In IELTS, there's no fail, actually. It's just whatever band score you need. Interestingly, there's no perfect 10. It's perfect 9. Yeah, and so 9 is an expert. It's kind of hard to get a 9. You have to be an expert. But most countries or universities, they don't need 9. Often they need 7 or 6.5, sometimes a bit higher. Yeah, so it's important to know what band score you need. And this is explained on page 3 of your masterclass. Now, we call it the IELTS test, but actually you're doing 4 tests, aren't you? Yeah, so I'm curious to know which one you're more worried about. Yeah, we have 3 of the tests. One is, I'll show you in a minute. So which one is missing? The speaking, yeah. So more people seem to be worried about writing. Yeah, some people listening and reading. We're going to talk about all of them. Someone said writing, of course. Okay, yes. Generally, people are quite worried about the writing. If you're concerned about speaking. Yeah, so this evening we'll spend a bit more time on the writing. Right, so these are the first 3 tests. Do these 3 together. Listening in this order, listening, reading, and writing. Yeah, so altogether, those 3 take about almost 3 hours. Yeah, and do you think you get a break in between? Do you get to have a bit of a coffee after your listening test? No, you don't, that's right. So it goes straight through. So what happens if you need to go to the bathroom? Too bad, hold on. No, you can ask to go to the bathroom, but you don't get extra time. So what can you take into the test with you? Can you take your lucky pen in with you to do the test? Yeah, you can't even take a pencil in. You take your ID, that's right. You can take a clear water bottle and some kind of, if the air conditioning is very cold, you can take a cardigan, something like that. That's it. Everything else we will provide for you. And then, okay, so there are those first 3 tests. And then the speaking is done separately. Yeah, so it could be before, could be after. And it's face to face. So there's a good question here from Bev. Do you need to wear a mask? So really, it depends where you are. In some countries, the speaking test is being done like this through a computer, but with a live examiner. Your examiner is live, and you're live, obviously, but through computer. In Singapore, we are doing it face-to-face, or shall I say mask to mask. So both of you have to wear a mask, examiner and candidate. So the examiners are very used to this now. It's been like a year or more. But I do advise you to wear a paper mask. It's easier, you know, the surgical mask, it's easier for the examiner to hear. Don't wear the heavy cloth mask. It muffles your voice. Yeah. So yeah, so speaking is face-to-face, but in some countries it's through the computer for safety. Okay, so that's just a bit of an overview. And seems like most people are more worried about the writing. You can use a double mask if you want, but just be careful that it's clear, because that's important for the speaking, that it's clear. Now, next question to you. Which version of the test are you planning to do? Computer or paper? There are two options now. The IELTS test keeps evolving. See, quite a lot of people are thinking of doing computer, some paper, mixture. Yeah, okay, great. So, all right, so it's the same test. It's completely the same in terms of the content. The differences are you get your results faster with the computer delivered, and so 3 to 5 days. And usually there are more options. So often you can do it every day. Yeah. Okay, so people often ask me, so there's a question here, can your answer be written in capital letters? Yes, of course. It's just like a normal keyboard, so you can put caps lock on if you want to. That's fine. For computer delivered, yes, the speaking test is still with an examiner. The speaking test is separate. It's either before or after the test, the other 3 tests. So people always ask me, well, which is better? Which one should I do, computer or paper? So it really depends on you. Yeah, it depends on your comfort. If you're very familiar with using a computer, typing fast, quite fast, and using a mouse and navigating a computer, and if you're comfortable reading on the screen, because the reading test is also done on the screen, then maybe the computer test is good for you. But if all those things, you're terrible at all of that, then do the paper-based. It's more the traditional way of doing the test. So you have to know yourself. For a first timer, what do I recommend? I recommend what you're comfortable with. So if you use computers every day and you like reading on the screen also, then maybe computer. But if not, then go for paper. Yeah. So someone's asking about the validity of your test. So that the IELTS test is valid once you've done it, but different organizations may ask you to do it after 2 years. Yeah. So sometimes they want a result within 2 years. So you need to check with the organization that you're doing it for. Okay, so we're going to talk about speaking first. So some of you were concerned about speaking, so we'll spend a bit of time here. Can you remember how long the speaking test is? Yeah, 11 to 14 minutes, that's right. So how many parts are there in this speaking test? Does anyone know? 3 parts, that's exactly right. So yeah, so here we go with the 3 parts, and I'm going to explore these in a bit of depth. Yes, so let's talk about, I'll go into each of these 3 parts of the speaking test in a minute, but let's talk about how it's marked first, because this is really important. You have to understand what the examiner is listening to when you speak. Actually, they only care about 4 things when you're speaking, only 4 areas. So does anyone know what those 4 things are that the examiner is listening to when you speak? Fluency, Gwendolyn, that's right. Yes, Marissa says pronunciation. Radha says vocab. Yes, coherence, that's another thing. Grammar, yes, I think you've got them all. Fantastic. So I saw a question that you were asked to retake a test because you got 7. It really depends what the organization needs. 7 is not a bad score though. 7 is good. And many countries are asking for 7 for migration. So I'm not sure what your purpose is. It really depends on your purpose. Okay, so let's have a look at these 4 things. So first is fluency and coherence. So what's that? Yeah, so that means basically you can keep talking, not too many pauses. But it's not just keeping on talking. Some people can talk and talk but they're not very logical, are they? You don't really know what they're talking about. So you have to be logical. This is coherence. So this one, we need to use linking words. So things like firstly, on the other hand, those kinds of words to make it flow. So that's the first thing. Can you pause with Yeah, don't do it too much. Yeah, because it will start to affect your fluency. So this is why we need to practice with the speaking, because also the questions are not what we talk about every day with our friends. They're a bit different. Yeah, so but they look at the whole test. So one time saying is not a problem. It's like how many times you do it across the whole test. Next one is vocab. Lexical resource. This is the fancy word for your vocabulary. So if you want 7 or more, you need to use some more unusual words. So, you know, you could say good, bad, nice, but those words are a little bit boring. So instead of bad, what's a more unusual word than bad? Terrible. That's a good, yeah. Worse, yeah. Cruel. Okay, all these. Catastrophic. Oh, great. Disastrous. Yes, all these words are fantastic, much more impressive. So try to use more unusual words, but they do need to sound natural. They need to be accurate. You can't just throw in some weird words that don't make sense. Yeah, so your vocab is about unusual words and also natural and flexible. I saw a question here about accent. This comes under pronunciation, so I'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so the next thing we're thinking about is our grammar. Yeah, so grammar matters. So as you see, there are 2 parts to the grammar. One part, of course, is being accurate. So if you want 7, you need to be about 75% accurate. If you want 8, around 80, 85%. But it's not just being accurate. It's also this word, range. What does that mean? So if I say to you, I like Singapore, it is hot. And it's really hot right now, seriously. But I like Singapore, it is hot. That's okay, that's correct, but those sentences are very simple. Instead, I can say, although I like Singapore very much, it tends to be rather hot. Ooh, that's a much better sentence. It's a longer sentence with although. It has 2 parts. So you want to try to speak with this kind of range. Yeah, so things like although, however, whereas, while, on the other hand, those kinds of words, they make our speech more complex, and that's good for IELTS. All right, so that's our third thing, grammar. Last one is our pronunciation. Yeah, so this is how clear we are. Now, someone asked about accent. It's actually not about your accent. Everybody has an accent. I have an accent, funny accent. So I was born in Australia, but I've lived in Singapore for many years. I have a funny accent, right? But it's about how clear you are, how clear and how natural. Yes, and if you want a high score, like an 8, you need to use English intonation. So you notice when I speak, I emphasize the important words. So you also need to do that, yeah, if you want a high score for pronunciation. But the biggest tip, when people are nervous, what do? They rush. They want to get out. Don't do that. Nice, steady, clear pace. That's the biggest tip, really, for your pronunciation. Okay, so just a few questions here. If you get away from the topic, is content important? What if you stutter? Okay, one question at a time. So, okay, good question about being relevant with your content. If want an 8 or higher, under this fluency and coherence, you need to be very relevant with what you say. Yeah, if you want 7, you have to be like quite relevant. Yeah, like sort of on topic. But 8, your reasons, your examples have to be very good. Yeah. Then stuttering, if you actually have a speech impediment like that, you can apply for special consideration. Yeah, but if you're just repeating yourself because you're nervous, you really need to practice. So you try to do that less. Yeah. Okay, great. So that's why am I talking so much about this? Because this is how the examiner marks you. Each of these are marked out of 9. So to get a 7, if you want 7, you need 7 for your fluency talking and being clear, being logical. 7 for your vocab, 7 for your grammar, 7 for pronunciation. Yeah, you need all of them to be 7, and then you get a 7. So we have to always be thinking of these 4 things whenever you practice, whenever you speak. Okay, so a few more questions here. What if you only have short answers? Yeah, Christine, we need to work on that. So a good tip for IELTS speaking is try to say 2 to 3 ideas for every question. We need to expand. There is a word that's your best friend in the speaking. It's the B word. It's not a bad B word. It's because. We can use because to give reasons. Yeah. Okay, Elizabeth's asking, what if the speaker has great fluency and coherence, but grammar is not strong enough? Then your score will be skewed, Elizabeth. You might get, you might even get 8 for your fluency, and your vocab is good, 7, but you might get 6 for your grammar. So it will average out. So if, for example, if you got 7, 7, 6, and 6 for pronunciation, then it would be 6.5. That's how you get the score. It's an average. Okay. More questions. What would you get a deduction if you pause too much as you think? Yeah, try not to pause too much thinking. Instead, my tip is say what's in your head like this. Oh, wow, that's an unusual question. I haven't thought about that before. Maybe it could be. So talk it out rather than this. Because the examiner doesn't know what's in your head. So talk it out. Yeah? And you need to practice. Now, how slowly can you talk? If you speak too slowly, it will affect your fluency. Yeah? So you need to speak at a natural, steady pace. Yes. Okay. So there's a question. If you talk too deeply about the topic, will it affect you? The examiner will manage the time. If you are saying too much, the examiner will just say, oh, thank you, and move to the next question. So don't worry about that. Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going. Can you see the timer? No, you cannot manage the time at all. Okay, you just follow the examiner's instructions. So let's get into each of the 3 parts, because the thing about this session, it seems like 2 hours is very long, but we always run out of time. So we have to keep moving. So speaking test, part 1, it's 4 to 5 minutes. And the examiner will ask you about 3 topics. And there will be 4 questions for each topic. So a total of 12 questions. So quite a lot of questions. But who are they asking you about? Who are they asking you about? You. You're speaking about yourself. Yeah? So this is all about you. This could be one of your topics. Let's talk about your favorite food. What is your favorite food? That could be your question. Hey, you can't see the questions, remember, you just hear. And ideally, you want to say a few things. So you could say, my favorite food is sushi, but you need to add a bit more. That's not enough. What else could you add to make it a bit longer? My favorite food is sushi. Why? Exactly, reasons. Because it's so fresh and tasty. Yeah, and the best place for sushi is, could just add a little bit more. You don't have to talk for 1 minute, just maybe 2 or 3 points. Yes? So someone's asking about all the speaking topics. At any one time in IELTS, there will be 30 topics for part 1. So of course you can try to find them online, but you cannot memorize the answers, and you should not do that. You can practice with those topics, but there's no point in memorizing because it will be very unnatural. If you want a good score in your speaking, the whole secret is to be natural and flexible. And to do that, you just need to practice and surround yourself with lots of English. Yeah, so, okay. All right, so in this part 1, you'll have 12 questions, but 3 topics. So this topic, you'll have 4 questions. Okay, so you just try to say a little bit more for each question. All right, let's move on to part 2. Part 2 is the strange part of the test. Do you know what happens here? Bev, you need to answer every question, yes. Yeah, the questions in part 1 are not difficult. They're just about you, okay? But you do need to practice. If you can't answer a question, the examiner will move on to the next one, but it will affect your score. But the questions are not, it's not like, do you know the capital of Czechoslovakia? It's not like that. The questions are about you. So you just talk about yourself. It's not really a problem. Okay, so part two is the weird part of the test. Okay, what do you do in part two? Okay, part two is 3 to 4 minutes. So you have 1 minute. What's the 1 minute for? Do you know? You make notes, that's right. And what's the 2 minutes for? Then you have 2 minutes. What's 2 minutes for? You have to speak. You don't know how long 2 minutes. Your job is just speak until the examiner says, thank you. That's your job, okay? All right, so this is what it looks like. You are given a card with a topic. You can hold the card, you can hold your notes when you speak. You don't have to look at the examiner. You can look at your notes and the card, yeah? So it could be something like this. Describe a school you went to when you were a child. You should say, so it will tell you, always tell you how many things here that you should say. How many things there are there? Yeah, there are always 4. There's always one down here, okay? So these are just ideas to help you speak. Yep, so you can use these to help you be logical. Another thing to check is what grammar should you use here? Past, present, or future? Past, that's right. So always check that. Were a child. So sometimes people, because they're nervous, they use present. So they'll say, when I am a child, I go to this school. This is going to affect your grammar. So careful, check if it's past. Yeah, so when you have 1 minute, you just write down some quick words. You cannot write a script. So just write some points for yourself. If you think of a cool word, some nice vocabulary, write that down. Then you have 2 minutes to talk. What happens? What happens if you run out? You finished all the 4 points, but it's only like the examiner has not said thank you yet. Well, what do you do? Okay, I'll tell you. Go back. You can go back and talk more about one of the points. So maybe this one, what you liked and didn't like. Maybe you can say some more. You can say, oh, let me tell you another thing that I liked. I really liked lunchtime. Okay, you can go back to 1 point. Another thing you can do is if you finish this school, cannot say anything more, talk about another school. Oh, another school I went to was, and then you start again. That's fine. But your job, you must keep talking for 2 minutes, okay, till the examiner says, thank you. That's your job. Yes, so you have 1 minute, Nay, to make notes before you talk, to prepare. Yes, and the examiner may interrupt you at the end. That's fine. It's not your problem. The examiner has to manage the time. So don't be upset if they cut you off. It's not, you didn't do anything bad. Okay? You don't have to cover all the points here. These are just to help you to stay logical. Yeah? Because people in part 2, they tend to ramble. Okay, so I'm just looking back at some of the questions I saw. You don't have to cover all the bullets, yes. Yeah, they give you this card. Your card will look like this, okay? This is the card that you make your notes and you have a piece of paper to make notes. All right, so you do need to practice this. So we don't do this. We don't talk for 2 minutes unless you're like me giving a lecture. We don't do it. So you have to practice, but you have your phone. So you can practice and listen to yourself and see what you do. Yeah, so you don't stop until the examiner says thank you. If you stop before the 2 minutes, it will affect your score. Yes, so you must practice this. Of course, you can look at the notes while you speak. You should look at your notes, look at the card. It's there with you while you're talking. So that's part 2. Now, part 3 of the speaking test, oh dear, we're falling behind. This is the most important part of the speaking test. Okay, part 1, the examiner will get a feeling for you, like, oh, this person might be 6 or they might be 7. Part 2, the examiner will refine. Oh, I think because it's just you speaking, so I think they could be 6.5 or 7. Part 3, this is where they will decide on your score. So you need to really do well in this part this part is a little bit more challenging because are you speaking about yourself here? Are you speaking about yourself? No. This part, you are talking about your country, society, or the world. Okay, you're not talking about you. Of course, you are giving your opinion. Yes, for sure. You must give your opinion. So I think, in my opinion. But if you say, well, personally, I do this, or in my family, we do this. If you say that, the examiner will say, yes, but what about in your country? What about in general? Okay, so make sure you speak generally. So I saw a question about the computer speaking. They will share the card with you using share screen. So don't worry about that. You will still see the card. Yes. So part 3 is, yes, it's called a discussion. So the examiner, it's not so scripted. If you say something, the examiner can make a question from what you say. It's more fluid in a way. But they will definitely cover 2 kind of topics. And the topics are connected to your part 2. So part 2, you were talking about the school. So part 3 is going to be about schools in general, not about you. Okay, let's look at the questions. Let's talk about schools. What kinds of schools are there in your country? Okay, so this is not so difficult. You know, maybe you have government schools and private schools. Maybe you have boarding schools. So you just talk about those. So it's the same thing. You need to kind of expand and say a few points and give reasons. This is a big tip. Give reasons and examples. Now, the questions may get a bit harder. So if we look down at the second topic, let's talk about education policies. Should all education be free? So this is a more complex question in a way. So if the questions become a bit difficult, it's a good sign. It means the examiner thinks you're good and they're pushing you. Okay, the examiner is trying to help you get the highest score you can. They're not your enemy. They're trying to help you. So if you get a question like that, maybe you never thought about it before, then you can say, oh, wow, I haven't thought about that before. But yeah, I think maybe all education should be free. And then you need to give some reasons why. Okay, so we do have to practice this, part 3. And please start following the news. So we have so many apps. We have everything online. It's easy to follow the news. I recommend BBC, The Guardian, New York Times, you have to pay for it. So BBC, The Guardian, you can also, Today newspaper in Singapore is quite good as well. Yeah, so start following the news so you have opinions, and we do have to practice. Is it okay to share experiences about your home country? Yes, of course, you should speak about your country, but not about you personally. You can say, in my country, we do this. Yes, that's totally fine, and that's what you should do. But you shouldn't say, well, I do this. It's not personal in part 3. Okay, we need to move on because we've got so much to talk about. I'm just going to show you just a little bit of this woman. She got 7 for her speaking. So she's from Colombia. So let's just watch just a little bit of her doing part 3, this discussion. Listen to the type of questions and listen to her answers. So remember, 7 is good. So we're going to think about her fluency and coherence. We're going to think about her vocab, her grammar, and her pronunciation. So let's watch a little bit.
So we've been talking about a well-known person that you like or admire, and I'd like to discuss with you 1 or 2 more general questions related to this. Let's consider, first of all, being in the public eye. Yeah. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of being famous?
The advantages are that first, that you will get really rich, and the fame actually helps you because you don't have to pay for a lot of stuff. They will give you free dresses and free stays in the hotels, free meals, free everything. So actually you're saving money plus the money that you're earning. And the disadvantages are that being a public eye, you lose your privacy. you will always be in the eye of the paparazzi and the people, and if someone recognizes you, they will take a picture of you, and that's the end of the relaxed evening. So I think that it will be a really big disadvantage.
Do you think if a celebrity accepts those endorsements, do you think they lose their honesty?
I don't think that they will lose their honesty, but maybe it will change them. They will have to accept the environment that they are living into right now. So if they get famous and they're not selling their soul to the devil, I don't think that they are that bad. I think that it's just human, and if they like it, well, better for them.
Can you talk about how the media reports on famous people in your country?
Okay, so I'm going to actually stop there because of our time. But did you hear the last question? Can you talk about how the media reports on famous people in your country? Okay, so it's not about her personally, it's about her country. It's general topics. Okay, so this woman got 7. There's a question here, can you make it up if you don't know? Of course you can make things up, but it's better if you have opinions about things in the world. The topics in part 3 are not like, it's not going to be about, you know, like very detailed scientific things or something like that. It's common things in the world, like the environment, health, famous people like that, the media, entertainment, sport. So if you follow the news and are interested in the world, you'll be able to do this. Okay, so let's have a look at why she got 7. So fluency and coherence. She could keep talking, right? She didn't pause very much. And she was able to, she gave quite long answers with some reasons and examples. Yeah, and she had some linking words. First, actually, I think so. Yeah. So she wasn't perfect. She hesitated a little bit, but not too much. Remember, 7 is not perfect. 7 is good. So her grammar was quite, her vocabulary was good. Right? She had some nice, unusual phrases. Lose your privacy, sell your soul to the devil, the paparazzi, she said. Yeah, so this was good. So every time you use something unusual, the examiner will notice that. Then her grammar, she had a range of sentences, not all short, simple ones. She had some mistakes though. I don't know if you noticed. So she said, if someone recognizes you, that's not correct, is it? Someone recognizes you. If people follows, so it should be, this is plural, so it should be if people follow. Yeah, you will like them fail. You will like them to fail. Yeah, so there were some little errors, but many sentences were also correct. And then her pronunciation, was she very fast when she spoke? She wasn't, right? She spoke in a nice steady pace, and she had good stress. She stressed the important words. She had some sounds that were not correct, like jung instead of yang, but we could still understand her. She was quite clear. So she is a 7, which is good in IELTS. Okay, so just some tips to sum up about speaking. You have to practice speaking. So I saw a question from someone before. They said they don't have it. They don't live in an English speaking environment. So you can still surround yourself with lots of English. You can watch Netflix. You can watch TV in English. You can listen to the BBC radio. You can read in English. And then you need to try and look online and find some English speaking friends. Sometimes you can do conversation exchange. You speak in your language with the person for half an hour, and then you speak English. Yeah, so there is a way. And now with the internet, we can find people to practice with. So not too fast and not too slow. Use that 1 minute to prepare. Make sure you write down some words, some good vocabulary if you think of it. Okay, so like I told you, when you don't know what to say it rather than silent. Try not to say how do you say or how to say, because that means you don't have the vocabulary. So try not to use that phrase. We want to use intonation, so emphasizing the important words. If you make a grammar mistake, one mistake is not going to matter. If you suddenly realize, then just fix it. Just repeat yourself is also okay. Yeah, so remember, it's all about expanding. You want to give reasons and examples. And then sometimes you can kind of, if you need to say more, you can argue with yourself. You can say, well, on the one hand, it could be this, but it could also be that. Like you can have an argument with yourself sometimes. Yes. So please practice. You can find, I'll show you some resources at the end. You can also find the questions online, but do not memorize, okay? Because it will sound very unnatural. When you give your opinion, which you have to do in part 3, try to say it in different ways. So a lot of people keep saying, I think, I think, I think. You want to use a variety, a range. So in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, that's good. These are some of the common topics. But if you're following the news, this will give you lots of ideas. Yes. So so there's a question about pronunciation. If you want, it's all about being clear and having natural, authentic English pronunciation. It's not about your accent. Yeah. So if you're not very comfortable with pronunciation, you can listen to TED Talks. You know, TED Talks, TED, and you can see how different English speakers speak and follow the way they speak. Okay, so we need to move on. Oh, I think that this session is going to overrun. I can already tell, and also because we have almost 400 people and a lot of questions. So I will do my best to keep on time. But so if you have a burning question, and we're getting near the end, make sure you put it in. So, because now we're going to talk about writing, and that always takes a while. Yes, so many of you said you're most worried about the writing test. Now, how many things do you have to do in your writing test? How many tasks do you do in 2? That's right. And how long is your writing test? It's an hour. Okay, so you have 60 minutes and 2 tasks. That's right. So we're going to talk, so just as we said, so what are these tasks? So for academic, quite a lot of you are doing academic, it seems. Your task 1 is you have to summarize something in words. And your task 2 is an essay. And so general, your task 1 is a letter. And your task 2 is also an essay. Slightly different topics from academic. Okay, so we talked about the scoring for the speaking. Do you remember? So 4 things. So writing is very similar. We'll see writing and speaking are quite similar. And writing, we also have 4 things. 2 of them are the same as the speaking. What are those 2? 2 are the same. Do you know what they are? Exactly the same. Grammar, yes, the grammar is the same. And one more. The vocab, yes, the vocabulary is the same. So these are the 4 things. As we see here, the vocab is the same and the grammar. So each of the 4 are equal, worth equal amount. Yep. So let's talk about the other, let's go through them quickly. So task, achievement, or response. Now, probably my biggest tip in the whole of the session is please follow the instructions carefully. Yeah, so this is about follow the instructions, answer the question, stay on the topic. Yeah, so this is really important for IELTS, and that's what this is for. Did you answer the questions? Did you give good reasons and examples? Next one, cohesion, coherence and cohesion. So we see this word again from similar to the speaking. So this is your structure. Do you have a good structure for your writing? Usually for IELTS writing, you need 4 or 5 paragraphs, and you must have paragraphs. You must, okay? Yeah, do you have to write more often to master this? Yes, you really do need to practice for the writing, yes. Now, the other thing for this part is it must flow. So the linking words are important again. Now, this one we've seen before, your vocabulary. So once again, we want our unusual words, more interesting, unusual words, and correct. And then we have the grammar. So again, more complicated sentences. So that's the 4 things. So again, marked out of 9. So to get 7, we need 7, answering the question, 7, organization and structure, 7, vocab, 7, grammar, and then you get a 7. All right. Yeah, so we're going to talk about how many words very soon. but thank you for bringing that up. So let's go into each of the writing. Now, for academic and general, the task 1 is different. So we're going to talk about academic task 1 first. General people, if you want to have a little rest, I'll be about 7, maybe 10 minutes, I think. Yeah, so you want to go get a drink and come back, that's fine. Academic people, here we go. Can you remember what you're doing for your task 1 academic? Do you remember? What do you do? A diagram describing data. That's right. You're given something, you have to describe it with words. Now, how many words do you have to write? Minimum 150, correct. And how long do you have? You have 20 minutes. Yeah, but nobody will tell you. They won't say, okay, finish, move on. You have to manage the time yourself. Okay. All right, so let's have a look. Yep, so you're given something that's visual and you have to describe it with words. So let's look at an example. All right, so sometimes you are given 2 things. Don't worry about that, it's fine. Okay, I'll talk you through it. See, you always have to write 150 words. This is in your notes for page 45. Let's have a look. This part here is always the same. Summarize the information. Pull out, select the main features and compare. We always have to do this. This is always our job. Summarize, find the main features, compare. This is our job. All right, so what are we doing? Now we have to read about what we're looking at. Charts, so number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad, 1985, 1995, and Australia's share of the tourist market. Okay, so Japanese tourists traveling abroad, Australia's share. So that's what we're dealing with. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions which you should always ask yourself. Are we talking about past, present, or future here? We're talking about the past, that's right. So always check. This will affect the grammar that you use. There's a question about the maximum word count. There's no maximum, but please manage your time. So usually, you know, around 200 words should be maximum, yeah, because you need to manage your time. This task 1 is not worth as much. Task 2 is worth a lot more, okay? So we want to do this quickly and properly, and then we want to move on. All right, so we're talking about past. Now we look at our graphs and we understand what's going on. So again, I'm going to ask you some questions. Overall, is this trend going up or going down? Just overall, I know there's some changes. Overall up, yes. So that's the main trend. It's increasing overall. Now we look in detail. So you must always look at the start. You must always look at the end. And you must always look at the peak. 3 things. So start, where are we at the start? 1985. And look, we have to check what this is that we're dealing with. Number in millions. So it's not 2, 4, is it? It's 2 million Japanese tourists. So in 1985, how many Japanese tourists went abroad? About 5 million, right? Now, what about at the end? How many went abroad? About 15 million. Yeah, not 15, but 15 million. Okay, so always make sure you get the measure correct. Now, where's the peak? Where's the highest point? Which year? Yeah, the highest point is also the end. Not always like that, but here the highest point is the end. Okay, so now we're going to look at the trends. So we can see here it's increasing, increasing, increasing. Oh, something happened. So wherever it changes, we're going to report that. So we're going to want to report what happened here. Yeah, it decreased slightly. And then it went up again. Yep, so there you always need to pick out the important changes. You do not need to report each year. Where it's the same trend, you just report the start and the end, and then the change. Let's look at the other one. Australia's share. So how many people went to wonderful Australia? Of course, I'm biased. Now, let's have a look. Now, what are we dealing with here? Is this millions? No, right? It's percent. So be careful. Okay, so let's look at the start. Again, start and peak. So start is very low, just about 2%. What about the end? Where are we at the end? How many percent? Just under 6%, right? Now, where's the peak? Which year is the peak? Is it? Is that the peak? Is that the highest point? I don't think so. Not 89. 94 is the peak. And what's the peak? How many? Oh, I don't think it's 7. I think it's just over 6, maybe. Yeah. So when you don't know exactly, you can just say approximately. Fine. Right, but someone pointed out this point, and yes, we're going to want to mention this change, this drop back, yeah, and this drop back. Okay, so you must analyze like that and pull out the important data. But remember, we don't have a lot of time, only 20 minutes, so we must start writing. First thing we do, okay, so when we write, we also think about 3 things. We have to write an introduction. We have to pull out the main features, which we just did. And then we have to have an overview. Let's talk about these. Introduction. So this was our topic. The fastest way to write the introduction is just rewrite the topic, change as many words as you can. Yeah, so you see here, the charts show, instead here we write the chart and graph compare, different words. Number of Japanese tourists, so number of Japanese who spent their holidays overseas. So we just change the words. That's the fastest way to write the introduction. Next, we want to describe in detail. So all you do when you have 2 things like this, you just talk about this one and then you talk about this one. But very important here, we must have lots of numbers so the examiner can actually draw it, can read ours and draw it. So you can't just say, oh, it increased gradually, it dropped back a little bit, it increased some more. Must say from what to what. You must include the numbers and you must include the years. So let's have a look. In 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. By 1990, so now we're going to say what? The figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year, the upward trend continued until the end of the period when numbers reached over 15 million. So we know what the numbers are, okay? Yes, you can go over the 150 word limit. In fact, that's the minimum is 150 words. So it's good to write about 170, 180. That's a good thing to do. Okay, now we have one more job, which is that we need to compare. Do you remember that's one of our jobs? Select the main trends and compare. Summarize and compare. So here within this, there is some nice comparing language. Can you see it? Can you see? There's no maximum word count. Now you can write as much as you want, but manage the time because you only have 20 minutes. You only need to write about 200 words maximum. Okay. Okay. So can you see any comparing language? Double to, yeah, that's good. After which, that's nice comparing language. And then in the next, a bit later, apart from, very good. This is another nice comparing language. Yeah. Yeah, so after which, apart from, yeah. Yeah, so if you can include this comparing language, it's very good. I mean, you must. That's what one of the things you have to do. You have to compare. Okay, great. So that was the first graph. Now we have to talk about the second one. So let's have a look. While Australia was destination for under 2% in 1985, it had risen to over 6% by 1994. Can you see the past tense? Was, had risen. The proportion grew consistently apart from a slight fall, remember that, in 1990, and we say what the numbers were, 4.5% to 4. After reaching its 1994 peak, which we said was 6, the percentage declined marginally to 6%. Yeah, so see, we included all the important numbers so the examiner could draw it. Can you see the comparing language again? There's one, the first word is comparing, while. Yeah, while, that's a comparing. Any more? There's another apart from, after. So this is very good to have this comparing language. Yeah, so and you can use numbers in brackets. That's totally fine. I also want to point out some nice vocab. Declined marginally. Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, risen, had risen, grew consistently. This kind of vocabulary is also very good in your writing, in your task 1 academic. All right. So if you don't have enough numbers, you just say, oh, it rose steadily, it fell suddenly, no numbers, then you get 5. It's a problem. Now, there's one more paragraph that we must include. You must. So the last paragraph, or it can be the second paragraph. It's up to you. I'll just say last for now. Is what we call the overview. Overall, despite relatively small proportion of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with growth of Japanese tourists overseas generally, with a trebling of both. Okay, so we're just describing everything, all the main trends in just a couple of sentences. Yes, can you see any data here? Can you see any numbers? Can you see any numbers? No, that's right. So that, yeah, exactly. So the overview shall have no numbers. I just got a comment that my voice is jarring. I'm very sorry about that. That's just my voice, I'm afraid. Maybe I'm too excited for you. Okay, but you must have this overview. It's very important. Okay, if you don't have the overview, you will only get a 5, okay, for your task achievement. You must have the overview. The conclusion can be the overview. You actually don't need a conclusion for your academic task 1. Can you write the overview in the introduction? You can include it as part of the introduction if you wish. You can do that as well. All right, but you must have this overview. Okay, so let's just summarize because we need to talk about general task 1 soon. So you must have your minimum 150 words. There's no maximum. You must have this overview. So you can put it after the introduction or at the end. Please pull out the most important information like we did. And you need to support it with lots of data. Remember to compare apart from, while, whereas, in comparison, and linking words to make it flow. Thank you. Oh, the person said my voice is crisp. Okay, thank you. I feel better now. Okay, and you must have paragraphs. So usually four paragraphs, maybe 5, but nice clear paragraphs. Now I'll talk about checking for mistakes later on when we talk about the essay. All right, so common things that people do for their task 1. They forget to have the data. They just say it increased, it fell. Don't do that. Remember, you have to say from this number to that number. Now, we never interpret. So you should never say, well, I think Japanese people are going to Australia because they want to have a barbecue. No, just describe, never interpret. And you don't describe everything, just the trends and where it changes. And we must have our overview. Okay, now sometimes you are given this. This is what's called a process. Now, if you get this, don't panic. It's actually just, it's kind of easier in a way. When you get this, you just have to describe each step and use all the words. You make sure you mention all the words. Okay, how do you do the overview? So introduction, you just rewrite the topic. Overview, count how many steps. So how many steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, approximately 7 steps, starting with digging up the clay, ending with delivery. And then you just describe each step. Okay, so there is a model for you to look at in your notes. So please go through that and see how they did it. They put the overview at the end, but that's fine. You can put it second if you want. Okay, you just need to mention everything and the sequence. All right. So that was academic task 1. Now, academic people, you can have a little lie down because that was a lot of information for you. General people, we need to talk about your task 1. Can you remind me, what are you doing for your task 1? We were just talking about academic. Now we're talking about general task 1. What are you writing? A letter. That's right. Now, how many of you have written a letter in the past year? I don't think many people write letters anymore, but we still have to do this, okay? So how many words, how long? Well, someone's written a letter. That's wonderful. How nice. Most of us just write emails. Okay, 150 words, and you have 20 minutes. Same, yep. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so it always tells you how to start. It will always tell you this. Begin your letter. So dear sir or madam. So please just follow that. Don't change it. Whatever it tells you here. So dear sir or madam. And then it will give you these instructions. So let's just go through and you have 20 minutes. So there have been some problems with public transport. Write a letter to the manager of public transport company. Describe the problems. Suggest how the problems are affecting the public. What changes could be made. So your job with the letter, you also have 3 things you must do. 3 things. So first one is work out your tone. So you can get the tone from here. Who are you writing to? Dear sir or madam. I mean, how do you start? Sorry, how do you start? Dear sir or madam. Now, who are you writing to? Letter to manager of public transport company. Do you know this person? No, right? You don't know that person. And what's your relationship? Yeah, you don't know them. So what should your tone be? Yeah, this will give us our tone. So some of you say formal. I'm thinking more semi-formal or professional. Think about that, because the secret with the letter, to get a good score for the letter, it has to sound real. Like you would really send this letter in Canada or New Zealand or the UK or wherever. Okay, so please, it shouldn't be too formal. Semi-formal or professional, that's a good way to think of it. Polite, yes, Jay, I like your polite, very nice. So that's our first job, our tone. So our tone is semi-formal. Next one, we have to think about why we are writing. We call this the purpose. The purpose is always up here at the top. There have been some problems with public transport. This is our overall purpose. There are some smaller purposes here. Why are we writing this letter? Often you can say that with to. To do what? To share some problems, to bring up some problems with the public transport, right? That's our purpose. That's our second job. Now, third job, we have to read the bullet points. How many bullet points? There are always 3, but we have to read them carefully. Describe the problems, so more than one. Explain how problems are affecting the public. Suggest the changes that could be made. Yeah, so that's our 3 jobs. All right, so once you've done that, you can start writing. So usually, let's just review the 3 rules. So we have the purpose, so it's always at the top, why you're writing. Then we have to cover the 3 bullet points fully, and we have to think about our tone. So let's have a look at the model. So remember it told us to start dear sir or madam, so we just do that. Now, can you find the purpose? It is here. We always want the purpose to be in the first paragraph. The examiner will be looking for it. So where's the purpose here? Why we're writing? Okay, so Barley is asking me the difference between formal and semi-formal. So Barley, it just has to sound real, like you would really send it. The good thing to do is look at some models. Look at model ones that are considered good. I just don't want you to be too old-fashioned. I guess that's what I'm telling you. Don't be very old-fashioned, okay? Does the content matter? Okay, we're going to talk about the content in just a moment. Yeah, so the purpose is to draw attention to the problems with public transport. That's right. Yeah. Now, see this thing at the start? I am a resident of Newtown. This is a nice way to begin. Just to say who you are without saying your name. I am a resident of Newtown and I am writing to draw your attention. Okay, so this is a nice way to start. Okay, so remember our first bullet point was talk about the problems, more than one problem. So can you see that there are 2 problems? Briefly, the roadworks have led to long delays. Furthermore, bus timetable has reduced the frequency. So 2 problems, because they said problems. Now they're introducing the problems with some linking words. Can you see those? What linking words are they using to introduce the problems? Can you see? Briefly, furthermore. So it's very good to use linkers in your letter. Yes, and so you do have to use your imagination. You have to make up what the problems are, but try to make them real. So you don't want to say, oh, first of all, the problem is that there are ghosts on the bus and they're haunting me. Don't do that. It doesn't sound real. You will not get a good score. Okay, so these ones sound real, but you do have to make up some details. Okay, so next one, our next paragraph will be effect. That was our second bullet point, right? The effect of the actions. So again, there should be 2 effects. So here we're saying what the paragraph is about. The effect becomes very obvious during peak hours. Public transport users find it takes 20 minutes. Can you see the second effect? Not worth the trouble, leading to a downturn in retail trade. So there's another linker as well. Yeah, so we introduce our effect with a linker. In this paragraph, there is some very nice vocabulary, and we want to try to use some unusual vocab, right, to impress the examiner, but it must sound natural. Can you see the nice phrase? A few nice phrases here. Can you see? Not worth the trouble. That's nice. Yeah. How about this one? Drastic downturn. Very good. Public concern about the situation. It also sounds very nice. Just a bit more impressive than the simple words, but still sounds real. Okay. So now remember the third bullet point was suggestions. So again, there are 2 suggestions. May I suggest buses be rerouted? And with a linking word, recommend a return to weekend timetable. Okay, so that's the third. And do you notice that each bullet point, there is roughly the same amount. You should have the same amount for each bullet point. And then this paragraph, we just point to the next step. Yeah, I look forward to receiving. That's the next step. Then don't forget to sign off and your name. Now the sign off should match. So dear sir or madam, and then the matching one is yours faithfully. So task 1 is worth 34% of your score. Yeah, so it's not worth as much. So the important thing to do is do it properly, do it well, and then move on to the essay, which we're going to talk about next. Okay, so this is how we do the essay. Now, if you forgot one of the bullet points, you forgot to talk about the effect on the public, just forgot that one. Very bad news. You'll only get 4. So you must cover the bullet points fully. You must also keep your tone the same and correct. So here it's a little bit more formal, semi-formal. Okay, so this is in your notes on page 13. This candidate got 6.5. So please have a look at that. I'm not going to go through it now, but you have a look at it. Read the examiner's comments. 6.5 is a good score. So the structure, the ideas are fine, but there are a few too many grammar mistakes, and that pulled it down to a 6.5. But maybe the person needed 6.5. So sometimes you get this kind of letter. So this is different. Let's look at the 3 things. So dear ... Oh, what should we do? And let's remember the first thing is see who you're writing to. Write a letter to your friend. Oh, so what's our tone going to be here? I see a lot of questions coming through. I will answer at the end of this section, okay? So what's the tone going to be here? Friendly, yes, we call it informal. Okay, we wouldn't really write a letter, would we? We'd send a WhatsApp message, but we have to write a letter. So it's going to be informal. So first of all, our tone is informal. Now, what do we do? Dear ... We just make up a name. Okay, so Jenny or whoever. Yeah. Now, our purpose is up here at the top. Why are we writing this letter? Why are we writing this letter? What's our purpose? We're not visiting. Our friend is going to visit. So we're going to give some information. Yeah, to give some information to our friend. That's why we're writing. So now look at the bullet points. Best time of year to visit and why. So be careful. There are two parts to this. We must say why as well. Very important. Can you write, my dearest Jenny? No, just don't. Remember I told you that the secret with IELTS is just follow the instructions. So if they said start dear, just start dear. You actually lose marks when you change it. So just put dear Jenny, don't change it. That's a good question. So second bullet, describe the types of accommodation. So more than one. Say what you would like to show your friend. Okay, so these are our three jobs. Let's look at the model. Okay, so dear Andrew, best wishes. Okay, you can make sure the sign off matches. So we wouldn't want yours sincerely for a friend, would we? You can also use other ones like see you soon, bye for now. Those are all fine as well. All right, so remember our purpose, we're going to give some information, but it would sound weird if we say, dear Andrew, I am writing to give you some information, because that sounds funny to a friend. Okay, so notice how they've done it. I was pleased to hear that you're going to visit Brisbane, so I'm writing to give you some information. Sounds more like you're talking. This is the secret to doing the informal letter. You have to write like you're talking. Now, notice this, I'm, your. This is fine in an informal letter because it's like how we speak. We can contract like this. Yeah, you can sign off with cheers. That's fine too. Okay, so remember our bullets. First one is when and why. So most people travel summer, but I think it's hot, uncomfortably hot. Autumn is the best. Where's the why? It's still sunny, but much cooler. Okay, so there's why. Then we had to talk about different types of accommodation. So more than one. Our bedrooms are full. Cheap places to stay like Airbnb could also stay in a serviced apartment. So more than one. And this one is about where you can go. So please have a look at this in your notes. Then we have the pointing to the next step. Looking forward to catching up. Now, this is more informal, right? Looking forward to catching up. Sounds like talking. And the sign off and the name. Notice that for each of the three bullets, there's about the same amount of information. So this is a very good one. Okay, so we do need to move on. We've still got to talk about our essay. So some tips. Please do what we've been doing. Tone, purpose, bullets. Yeah, and check the bullets to make sure there's a plural, like problems. The purpose needs to be in the first paragraph. You need probably 5 paragraphs in your letter. So the last part, you point to the next step. I look forward to hearing from you, that kind of thing. Remember, get the tone right, formal or semi-formal or informal. Try not to copy the instructions. Try to use your own words. Yeah, just start as they tell you. Don't need to put an address. You just start, dear sir or madam, or dear Jenny, and use the right closing for the letter. Okay, so that's part 1 for academic and general. So yeah, great. So now we really need to talk about the most important part of the writing, which is task 2. Task 2 is worth 66%, so more than half. Now, what is this task 2? What are you doing? You're writing an essay, that's right. So how many people have written an essay in the past year? I'm just curious. Can you tell me, say yes or no? Have you written? Yes, some people have. Oh, no, yeah, quite a lot of you have written an essay. Oh, that's good. Okay, so this essay is very short. It's only 250 words minimum, and you have 40 minutes to do it, okay? So it's a relatively short essay. So we have to be really on the topic. There are different types of essays that you're given, but the most important thing is to analyze the question. And this is what I'm going to show you now. To me, this is really very important because you must stay on the topic. Okay, so your essay looks like this. 40 minutes, at least 250 words. This part is always the same. This is always your job. Give reasons and examples. Reasons and examples. That's what you always have to do. Okay, so let's look at the topic. So IELTS essay usually has these two parts. This is the topic. This is the instructions. So let's have a quick read. Children who are brought up in families that don't have large amounts of money are better prepared to deal with problems of adult life than children brought up with wealthy parents. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so there's two parts, the topic and the instructions. Now, I think it's important to look at the instructions. Always, I think it's better to look at this first. Look at the instructions, because this is telling us what to do. So this is asking for our opinion. How much do we agree or disagree? Do we mostly agree? Do we partially agree? Yeah, so I want to ask you, when I get this topic, whatever my topic is, I try to say it in my own words so I understand. So children brought up in families that don't have much money are better prepared to deal with problems of adult life than children brought up by wealthy parents. So children who are kind of poorer, they can cope better when they're adults. So I always say it in my own words, so I make sure I understand. So what do you think? I want to ask you. So, Aliani says partially agree. You can agree and disagree. You can sort of be half-half. Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. No worries. What else? What do other people think? Some people agree. Some people partially agree. Yeah. Okay, good. So you must get your position first. Okay, make sure you have your position. And then you can write your essay. So let's have a look at one. This is a real one written by, this is in your notes. This was written by a candidate and they got band 8. So this is considered a very good score for writing. The notes from the examiner are here, so you can read those. Let's just have a look. The reason why this is very good is because the person thought of good reasons and examples, and the structure is very clear. Okay, so let's have a look at that. All right, so let's see. So children brought up in poor families are better prepared to deal with problems of adult life than children. So this is the introduction. The thing about this introduction is a bit similar to the topic. So if you can change the words a bit more, that's better. But you can start your introduction by rewriting the topic in your own words. So it's quite a clear introduction. And this person puts the position, what they think. Can you see? I do agree. So in your introduction, you should put your position there. So this paragraph is the first reason why they agree. Children of poor parents are prematurely exposed to problems of adult life. E.g., they're giving an example. I actually think it's better to write for example, the full word, but this is okay. So they give an example. So that's one reason here. Here's another reason why they agree. And here is another reason why they agree. So 3 reasons. So usually we have 3 reasons to support why we agree, if you agree or disagree. Now this paragraph is interesting. They're considering the other side. So they're saying, however, there are some problems for children with poor backgrounds. Yeah, they sometimes feel robbed of their childhood. So at least they're considering the other side. And then the conclusion, you just sum up the whole topic in one paragraph. So this is very well structured. The vocabulary is also very good. Yeah, so this is a clear 8. So there's a question here about the introduction. We always need an introduction in our IELTS essay. The fastest way to do it is just rewrite the topic in your own words. In this opinion essay, because they ask for your opinion, right? Do you agree or disagree? You need to put that position in your introduction, but don't put the reasons. The reasons come in your paragraphs. Yeah. Okay, so you need to introduce. And you do need to have an introduction, that's right. You can write to a large extent, I agree. Yeah, they asked you to what extent. So you should say to what extent. Good. Okay, so let's look at another topic, a different type of topic. There are different topics. So you don't have to consider the other side for opinion essay, but I think it makes a stronger essay. And this person got 8. and they considered the other side. So I think it is a good idea, honestly speaking. But you don't have to. There's no rules. If you don't want to consider the other side, then you've got to have really good reasons. If you want to totally agree, you have to have really good reasons. Okay, so let's look at another topic. So again, there are these two parts. Now this one, I always look at this part first, the instructions, so I know what I have to do in my essay. So this one is discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Now, how many things do we have to do in this essay? Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Yeah, you think 2, but it's actually 3 because both views. So there's view 1, view 2, and your opinion. So 3 things. So now we look, what are these views? Some people believe increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity is positive. Others think it's harmful. So view 1 is it's positive. And view 2 is that all the shopping is harmful to individuals. So be careful. It's not harmful to the economy. It's harmful to individuals. Okay, so in this essay, you have to think of reasons, first of all, why you have to argue view 1, that shopping is a positive trend. So can you think of any reasons now? So one thing that I really encourage you to do is brainstorm. Before you write, think of your reasons. It will give you a much better essay. So what are some reasons why more people shopping? Why is that a positive thing? It's therapeutic for people. Yeah, it's a form of relaxation. It's good for the economy. Yes, they're both good things. Yep. Now, what about why is it harmful? If you think about the other side, why is it harmful to individuals? Addiction, debt, consumerism. Okay, great. So you've got your reasons already. Now you can write your essay. But remember, you have 3 things you have to do. What's your 3rd thing? You have to have your opinion. So maybe your opinion is a bit of both. You know, shopping can be a great form of relaxation, but people have to be really careful. Yeah, you can have a bit of both, but you must have your own opinion. And then your conclusion, you just summarize all your points. Somebody asked, what do you do for the introduction for this essay? Just rewrite the topic or say a general statement about shopping. Yeah, that's how you do your introduction. Yeah, and remember, you have to give some examples. Yeah, so they can be from your own life. They can be personal examples, but not too long. Just a short example to support your reason. All right, so let's have a look at another type. This one is called multi-part. So can you see here that there are 2 questions? Why is shopping so popular? What effects does its increase on popularity have on individuals and society? So now we read this bit. Shopping is becoming more and more popular as a leisure activity. Some people feel this is both positive and negative. Okay, so we have 2 jobs in this essay. Why is shopping so popular? What effects does its increase in popularity have on individuals and society? Or do we have 2 jobs? Do we have 2 things we have to talk about? What do you think? 3, yeah, that's right, Mark and Steve. We have to talk about 3. The effect on individuals and society. Okay, so always be careful when you read the question. So we have to talk about 3 things. Why is shopping so popular and how it affects people and how it affects society. So I'll show you another model. This one got an 8 as well. So this one also is very good in the way it's structured. This one's not perfect. There are a few things that could be better. Okay, so here is the introduction and also the first part, which is why is shopping so popular? This paragraph is a bit long. Ideally, your paragraph should be 4 to 6 lines for IELTS. So this one's a bit too long, but there are some good reasons why shopping is so popular. Okay, now that the first, you have to talk about the effect on individuals, right? So here's one effect. The most important effect has on individuals is it nourishes self-esteem. Okay, so that's one reason. And then they expanded on the reason. So gave kind of like an example. And here's another reason. Oh, sorry, that's the effect on individual. Now here's an effect on society. Remember we had to talk about that? Increase in popularity of shopping has many effects on society. People encouraged to go into new businesses. So that's a good point. It will improve the economy. Okay. And so here's another point about effects on society as well. And then the conclusion is here. Now this conclusion is a little bit weak because this is the person's opinion. I find shopping to be interesting and pleasurable. But did they ask for your opinion in this essay? No, right? Just why is it popular and its effect on individuals and society. So really, you shouldn't give your opinion here. It would be better just to summarize all the points. How many sentences in each paragraph? It's not really like you have to count your sentences. It's more like each paragraph should be clear what it's about. Yeah, so the paragraph usually has a topic sentence like this. The most important effect shopping has on individual is that it nourishes the self-esteem. So we know that this paragraph is about the effect of shopping on individual, and there's the reason. And then they expand on that reason. So please have a look at this essay as a good example. If you write more than 250 words, if you write 300, 350, it's fine. Just careful with your time. There's no maximum, but manage the time carefully. Yeah, it's okay so computer-based, there is a word count. If you do it on computer, it tells you how many words. If you do it on paper, can't count, I mean, there's no word count, obviously, but don't count the words. Just count how many words you do on a line and work out how many lines you need to write. It's fine if you're doing paper-based. It's fine to cross things out. It's not totally fine, no problem. Okay, if you write less than 250 words, yeah, it's a problem. You can lose marks. So you must hit 250. All right, so just some summary about this. We also have another masterclass just about writing, if you're worried about the writing. Yeah. So you can check online about how to register for that. So remember that task 2 is worth 66%. So we want to spend more time and focus on task 2 and get task 1 done quickly. So task 2, we always analyze the question like that. See what kind of question. Must have nice, clear paragraphs, usually 4 or 5 paragraphs. Okay, your grammar and vocab. Yeah, you need to work on that yourself. So like reading is a very good way to build up your vocabulary. Yes, so please analyze the topic. Linking words are important. So introducing each paragraph with linking words, things like firstly, another reason, on the other hand. If you run out of time, do not put bullets, okay? Don't use bullet points. You will lose marks. You must write in full sentences. This is the same for the letter as well. You must write full sentences. Now, checking. Checking is hard. So what I suggest you do is write a practice essay, show it to someone you know who has really good English. Then get them to point out your mistakes. After a while, you'll learn. You'll probably do similar things. Maybe you forget plural, like you forget your S. Maybe you forget a and the. Maybe you forget the small words in, on, at, to. So you'll find out what your habits are. And then when you check your essay while you're in the test, you just quickly look for those common mistakes. All right. So British and American vocabulary, you can use either spelling. Totally fine. Yep. So for task 1, it depends. Are you doing academic or general? 3 paragraphs. For the letter, for task 1 letter, usually have 5 paragraphs. For task 1 academic, usually we have 4 paragraphs, or you could have 3, introduction and overview. Yeah, maybe you have 3 or 4. It's not like a rule. They have to make sense. That's the most important thing. All right, so we're going to talk about reading now. Now, if I missed any of your questions, I will definitely stay at the end. So there's so many people here that sometimes I miss the question. On paper-based, is it acceptable if we correct this? Yes, on the paper-based, if you make a mistake, just cross it out and rewrite it. Totally fine, no problem. Okay, so as we can see, writing and speaking are a bit similar. The way they're marked, what you have to do, giving reasons and examples, somehow they are similar. Now we're going to talk about reading and listening, and we will see that these two tests are also similar. Now the thing is, reading and listening are tricky tests. They are not friendly tests. They are full of tricks and traps, so you have to be really focused. I definitely am going to go over time, I think. So if you need to leave right on the 2 hours, that's totally fine. But I will just keep going until I finish because I don't want to rush too much. Yeah, so we can talk about IELTS for 2 weeks, really. There's so much to talk about. Yes, so reading, there's a good comment here that it's not easy to allocate your time. I totally agree with you. So let's talk about the reading test. So reading test, it's slightly different for academic and general. So, but it's 1 hour, 40 questions, 3 sections. Academic, you are reading things that you probably read at university, like journal articles. General, you're reading things that are like, could be something that you encounter when you live in that country. Maybe a timetable, maybe a TV guide, maybe some advertisements. Yeah, but section 3 is always one long passage for general as well. Now, it's very true. The reading test is a race against time. Why? Because you have to read more than 2,000 words and answer the questions. And there's no reading time. There's no extra time for reading. Yeah, so you have to read fast and be very accurate. So you do need to practice this. So we suggest using these skills, skimming, scanning, and reading for detail. This helps you to be focused and find the information. Now, the good news is for the reading is that you can find the answer in the passage. Yeah, you don't have to use your general knowledge. In fact, you just have to find the answer. That's the secret with the reading. Okay, so there are 14 different question types. So we won't talk about them all, but these are some of the main types. Multiple choice, we're quite familiar with that. This one, true, false, not given, yes, no, not given. Matching, completing a sentence, and short answer. These are the common ones. Now, the good news is that these ones with a star, the questions are in order. So question 1 is near the top. Question 2 is a bit further down. This type here, true, false, not given, yes, no, not given. This is in every reading test and it's quite tricky. It's a bit confusing. So we're going to talk about that type of question. So this is just a short passage just to, get us into it. Now, when you get passage, the first thing we suggest you do is to skim the information. So we very quickly look at the questions. We're not going to answer yet, just so we get an idea of what it's about. Aboriginal Australians, Africa, settled. Okay, so we know it's about Aboriginal people coming to Australia. So now we read the passage. Of course, it's much longer usually. We read it quickly. We call it skimming. We're reading for the important facts, the dates, the names, the ideas, their places. If you are doing paper-based, you can underline the key words there. Oh, I think we've got someone. We've got someone that we can hear. Perhaps we can just mute all. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, so we skim through quickly. So do that, just quickly skim through that. Then you can start to answer the questions and put your answers in the chat box. But have a quick skim. Skimming is to give us an idea about what each paragraph is about. So we kind of know in our head, like a map. Yeah, in the computer-based IELTS, I believe that you can highlight the questions, yes. So you don't have to read the questions first. I just think that's a good thing to do. But if you don't want to, you can work out your own system, all right? So, but I think it's just good to have a quick look at the questions so you understand what it's about. but it's really up to you. Okay, so once you've skimmed it, now we have to answer the questions in detail. So this is true, false, not given. Now, what does that mean? If this information and this information, if it's the same meaning, then it's true. Maybe different words, but the same meaning, it's true. If this information and this information, it's opposite meaning, not the same, then it's false. If this information, I look, I can't find it, then it's not given. Okay, so that's how it works. All right, so Aboriginal Australians are descended from inhabitants of Africa. Now, remember this type of question, the first one will be near the top. So we have to find where it's talking about that. So if we look, modern humans ventured out of Africa, 80,000 whilst ancestors of Aboriginal Australians were part of this migration. So is it true, false, or not given? You want to put in the chat box? Yeah, so it's this part. It's true, that's right, because it means the same thing. Modern humans came out of Africa. Aboriginal Australians were part of this, so they came from Africa. So you're right, it's true. So next one will be further down. Ancestors of Aborigines settled in Australia about 80,000 years ago. So we need to look for the key words, the important words. So here it's settled, ancestors, 80,000. So if we look down, now here's an 80,000 here. See, they like to try to confuse you, but this is when they left Africa. That's not correct. What it says, Aboriginal arrived. Okay, that's the same, settled, arrived in a single migration, at least 50,000. So is that the same meaning? No. So that one is false. It's false because they settled 50,000 years ago, not 80,000 years ago. Yeah, that's. The next one will be further down. Aboriginal Australians are most genetically diverse race in the world. So let's read. Now we know it's going to be further down. So we use our second skill. We zoom in, we call it scanning. Then we use our third skill. We read for detail. Greater genetic diversity between Aboriginal people east-west of Australia. So there's genetic diversity, but this is east-west of Australia. Between culturally diverse. Anything about the whole world? No. So that one, as you rightly say, that's not given. Okay, so this is just to give you a taste of how to do the reading test. The reading test, we need to move fast. If you get stuck on a question for more than about 45 seconds, just move on and come back to it later. But never leave a question blank because you don't lose marks for a wrong answer. Okay, so synonyms are important. Settled, arrived. It's all about words that mean the same thing. But they love to trick you. Genetic diversity, culturally diverse is not the same. So watch out for the tricks. Yes, sometimes it is confusing between not given and false. It is true. So false means that the information is there, but it's wrong. So not given, you can't find it. If you're practicing and you get the answer wrong, try to work out why you got it wrong, and then you'll gradually learn. Why is it not false? Which one are you saying, why is it not false? The third one? The information is not there. It said that it was the most, they were genetically diverse between the east and west of Australia. It didn't say they were most genetically diverse in the whole world. It doesn't say anything about that. And then it talks about people who are culturally diverse. So it's not, that information is not there at all. It's not that it's wrong, it's just not there. Yeah, so can you write TFNG? Just follow the instructions. If it said to write true, then write true. If it says you can write T, then write T. Just follow the instructions, very important. Okay, let's move on. So this is our technique that we suggest you read the questions first, underline the keywords, and then skim the whole passage, and then answer in detail. But if you have another method and it works for you, that's fine. Always check. Sometimes it will say like you can write 3 words. Make sure you do that, because if you write 4 words, you'll get the answer wrong. Yeah, so sometimes when you read, you don't know the words. That's okay. The answer probably won't be one of those words, but we can use that to build our vocabulary. Yeah, don't get stuck on a question and just guess if you don't know. Now, to get 7, many of you want 7. So general and academic, general is easier than the reading test. So to get a 7, do you know how many marks you need out of 40 for a 7? You need, no, unfortunately for general, to get 7 for reading, you need 34 out of 40. You can only make 6 mistakes. For academic, you need 30 out of 40. Yeah, so the test is not that difficult, but you have to be really careful. Yeah, you have to be like, you can't be just like, oh, that'll do. You have to like really look for the answer in the passage. Should I read the question of the whole section, find the answer? So people always ask me, do I really need to read the whole thing? Can't I just look for the question and find the answer? You can try that. It's really slow. Remember that you're racing against time. So if you read the whole passage first, you skim it, you take about 5 to 7 minutes to skim the whole thing. It's much faster because you have a map in your mind about where the information is. So then when you read the question, you're like, oh, I think that was in this paragraph. It's much faster. Remember, you have to be fast. Yeah. Okay. Can you go back and change your answers? Yes. If you want a 9, you have to have all correct. That's right, because 9 is perfect score. Of course, you can go back and change your answer. Even on the computer, you just click in and change your answer. If you're doing paper-based, of course, you can change your answer. On the paper-based, you have to put your answers on an answer sheet. Yeah, a separate sheet. So you write each answer on the sheet. Okay, we need to move on because we've still got one more test to talk about. So with the reading test, it's worth, you have 1 hour, you have 3 sections. So you have to spend 20 minutes on each section. You must manage your time very carefully. All right, listening test. Listening is the shortest test. How long is it? So it's 30 minutes, that's right. So if you're doing paper-based, you have an extra 10 minutes to copy your answers over onto the answer sheet. If you're doing computer-based, you have an extra 2 minutes just to check, because computer-based, you just answer on the screen as you're listening. Yep, you don't need 10 minutes at the end. Now, listening test, okay, so the reading test also and the listening test, they get harder. So you want to try to get most of your points in the easier sections. Listening test, how many sections? There are 4. Yeah, 4 sections. So listening test is the same for academic and for general. So there are 4 sections, and 1 and 2 are kind of okay. Section 3 and 4 are quite a lot harder. So we want to get most of our points in section 1 and 2. Okay, there are different numbers of people talking, sometimes just 1 person, sometimes 2, sometimes up to 4 people. Okay. All right, so how many times do you hear the listening test? Once. That's why we need strategy. You only hear it once. Okay, so we're going to try just a little bit. I'm only going to play the first 4 questions just so you get to the feel of it. Okay, so it looks like this. This is part 1. So this is an easier part of the test. So complete the form, 1 word and or a number. Now always pay attention to this. If you write 2 words, wrong. So you can have 1 word and a number, or you can have just a number. A number includes a phone number. That is like 1 number. Okay, so in computer-based, yes, you have scrap paper and a pencil to take notes also. You have some extra paper, definitely. No, so in the computer-based, don't write the answers down on paper. You do not have time, and you'll be looking up and down from the screen. That would be a very bad idea. You need to type as you go. You can change the answers if you want to on computer-based. Okay, so let's have a look. So you are given some time. It will tell you, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. So what should you do? You need to quickly predict what your answer might be. So here we've got Theatre Royal, date, Saturday. So that's going to be a date, right? Probably a number and a month. Time, so that's going to be a number. Tickets, 3 adults, 1 child. Seats in, this is a place where the seats will be. Seat row number, So this is row and number. So it's telling us it will be the row and the number. Method of delivery. Okay, we'll just do those 4 questions just because of time, just to give you a taste. There are many practice materials that you can try later. Okay, so here we go. So please type the answer in the chat box as we go.
Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Hello, Theatre Royal Plymouth?
Oh, hello. I'd like to make a booking, please.
Yes. What is it you want to see?
The Imposter.
Right. And which day did you want to come?
Friday the 25th.
Just a moment and I'll check availability on the computer. Oh, sorry, we're fully booked for that performance.
Oh, dear. What about the following day, then?
The 26th? Yes, that's okay. We've got 2 performances on that day, one at 3:30 and one at 7. Which would you prefer?
Oh, the later one, please.
Mm-hmm. How many people?
Well, there are 4 of us.
Are there any concessions? Any children?
Oh, I'm not sure. My daughters are 15 and 12. Do they get concessions?
Only the 12-year-old, I'm afraid. So that's 1 child and 3 adults. Any idea where you'd like to sit? Stalls or circle? Tickets for the stalls are a bit more expensive. £12 for adults and £8.50 for children. The circle costs £10.50 and £6.50.
Do you get a good view from the circle?
Oh, yes. And in fact, we've got some seats left at the front, if you'd like those.
Right. We'll go for those, then.
Right, that's seats A21 to 24, then. They're very good seats.
That sounds fine.
So let's see, that comes to £38 altogether for the tickets. How do you want to collect them? Shall I put them in the post? They'd be sent today by first-class mail, and there'd be an additional charge of £1 to cover postage and administration. Or do you want to get them from the box office yourself?
Oh, yes. Could you send them, please?
No problem. That'll be £39 altogether.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time
So I'm just going to stop it there just because of time. Okay, let's have a look at the answers just for the...
Now we shall begin.
Oops, let's have a look at just for the first 4. Now there's a little bit of a fault in the recording, so one of them wasn't so easy to hear. So I think, let's have a look. So they're the 4 answers. Yeah, so that was A. I think you couldn't really hear it because it sort of cut out, but A, 21 to 24. This is considered one number because it's a range, so that's okay. It's all together. Yeah. So 26th, yep, and then the time, circle. Yeah. If you only write 26, that should be fine. Yeah, Saturday 20. And this is an optional one, the 26th. Okay, so just to give you a little taste of what the listening is like. So you really have to stay focused. And as soon as you get one answer, you need to move to the next one so you don't miss one. For the time, only limited formats. So as long as you have any of these options for the time, that's fine. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, so there's the answers. Okay, great. All right. So with the listening, it's really good if you can do like listening, each section, there are 4 sections. Each section takes, just a bit under 10 minutes. So if you can do listening practice tests, maybe just one part, 10 minutes every day, you'll improve really quickly. A lot of it is practice. Okay, so when we do the listening, always use that time to look at the questions and predict what the answer might be. Always check how many words you can write. Underline the keywords if you're doing the paper-based so that you focus on what you're listening for. Staying focused is really important. So a lot of the listening are synonyms, words that mean the same thing. So does the word that they say mean the same as the question? It's similar to the reading in that way. So the good news is it's always in order, never jump around. So it always keeps moving down. Yeah, so always check how many words you can write. And sometimes they kind of guide you to the next question because their voices will change. They'll say, oh, and now let's talk about, so they move to the next question. The accents can be different. So they might be American, Australian, British, they have different accents, but usually they're quite clear. All right, so we've managed to cover everything before 2 hours. That's great. So I'm going to stay though, because I know I missed some of your questions earlier because it was just the chat was moving so fast that I missed some of them. So if you have a question that I haven't answered, I'm definitely going to stay until we answer them all. So just to summarize, of course you need to do practice tests, but until you do your exam, please surround yourself with as much English as you can in any opportunity while you're commuting, before you go to sleep, talking to people, just have lots of English. Make a plan. So I don't know, how many of you have booked your test? Let me know in the chat if you just say yes if you've booked your test. Yeah, if you have booked it already, okay, some people have, then make a plan going backwards. So the best thing to do is try like almost every day to do some practice. So maybe one day you can do a bit of speaking and maybe task 1 writing. Next day you do some reading and part of a listening. Next day you do speaking and writing again, like that. Then in about 10 days before your test, you need to practice whole tests and you need to practice to time. Yeah, and then also when you're not doing that, the rest of the day, try to just have lots of English around you. Of course, we need to know if we're doing academic or general. We've covered the scoring, so I think you understand that a lot more now. There are courses on the IDP website. You can find actually IELTS structured courses, which you can do if that can also help you a lot. Yeah, so, you know, moving up a band is thousands of hours. You know, just think about how you learnt your first language. It took at least 5 years. So learning English, it does take time. I know we want shortcuts because we're all under a lot of pressure. But with language, there's really no shortcuts. It's a lot of it's practice. Yeah. But everything you do will help with your English and just getting out there and using it. Okay, so here this slide has some resources. Please feel free to take a screenshot. This Ielts Essentials, once you register with IDP, you can access lots and lots of really good materials there to help you prepare. Also, the the IDP website will help you to prepare as well. And then please join the Facebook page for IELTS Essentials and also for IDP. There's lots of tips that they will share there as well. There's a really nice blog here and support videos. So please take a screenshot of that. Yeah, and now, well, good, we finished before 2 hours, so I'm very happy about that. And thank you so much for all your great questions. Really, you have some wonderful questions. Keep me on my toes. But please, I'm happy to stay here and answer any more questions that you may have. If you need to go, please feel free. I wish you all the very best with your IELTS. Please keep safe with this Delta variant. Please wear your mask, wash your hands. Yeah, hopefully things will change before too long. Yeah, I wish you all the very, very best. So I am just going to stay here. Any questions that people have? I see one in the Q&A box. Which is the correct answer? Or 7 p.m. or 7 with a colon? I think all of those would be accepted, Remedios. They're not so fussy about how you write the numbers. They should be fine. So Nishant has a question. If there is some instruction like not more than 3 words, can we answer in 1 word or should you reach 3 words? No, sometimes you can have 1 word and a number or whatever, or sometimes it's just 1 word. But usually when they say no more than 3, usually it is 3. Yeah, usually you can find 3, but not always. Will there be deduction for wrong article plural? So is this in the listening? In the listening, the grammar has to work. For telephone numbers, you don't need a hyphen. Currency symbol and number counted as a single word or number. So often they'll give you the symbol in the question, in the question paper. Then you just write the number. Yeah, so I think you often don't have to worry about Can you put comma instead of writing and? Well, the question will not be designed. The questions are designed so that you can find exactly the right amount of words. So you don't have to use punctuation. Yeah, but they're great questions. Thank you. Can I go back to the previous slide? Of course I can. There we go. Is it hard to score band 4? Actually, Clarence, it is not hard to score band 4 because that is a lower score. So it's not so difficult to score band 4 unless you don't speak English at all. Then it might be a bit difficult. Online speaking test. Yes, we were talking about that, Fadli. The speaking test is, for many countries, you do it online. Yeah. You mean the whole thing is online? I'm not sure. Sometimes I don't think so. I think it's still in the test center, but there are many safety precautions. Nina, you're not allowed to wear a watch because there are many ways to cheat with a watch, especially with smartwatches. So now, but there'll be watches in the room. I mean, there'll be clocks in the room. There'll be timekeepers in the room, so you can follow the time. No worries about that. Maximum word count for writing, no. Yeah. How to identify between false or not given? So false means that answer is there. The information is there in the passage, but it's wrong. It's not the same as the question. Not given means you can't find it at all in the passage. Yeah. In the speaking test, when I'm talking about my pet, shall I use it or can I use he, she? Actually, you can use either one. It's fine for your pet. If you think of it as he, she, that's fine. It is also fine. No more than 2 words. If I want to answer 10, 12. Oh, don't put a space. If it's just one word, like a number range, 10-12, but keep it all together without a space. That's better. Can you look at the time for the computer delivered test? Yes, they will tell you the time. There'll be timekeeper, so it will count down. So you can use American or UK English, up to you. Or yeah, to use whichever one you like. Will words with typo be deducted? Yeah, words with typo comes under spelling, which is part of vocabulary. So it's too many spelling mistakes, you will lose marks. There is no spell check, unfortunately, for the writing. So you have to work on our spelling. Can you hide the timer in the CD test? I'm not sure about that, actually, lovely. I'm not sure. I think you can't. I think you need to see it because they want you to stay on time. Pencil and paper, Darlene, will be provided in the computer delivered test, so you can make some notes, yes. Will the examiner explain the questions in part 3 for the speaking if it's too complicated? Yes. If you don't understand the question in part 3 speaking, the examiner will rephrase it and say it in a different way, so don't worry about that. They're trying to help you. Will handwriting affect my score? As long as it can be read. Yeah, if you have very messy writing, you might want to write in capital letters. Yeah, I'm doing lots of spelling mistakes. Okay, so if you have spelling mistakes, have a look online for some spelling apps. Or go on the App Store, look for spelling apps. So you can just practice like spelling games. That will help you improve. Can I give you a successional planner to gain band 6 in 2 months? It's very hard for me to answer that, Jirapon, because I don't know your level now. So yeah, I mean, really, it's a good idea to just start, but you need to work out your level. So maybe try some tests and then see how you go. So try some practice tests like listening and reading, and then see how you do. That will give you an indication of your score. Then do some writing and show someone. Then you can see how far off you are. Yeah. Okay, so there's some questions in the chat also. Should we use a pen or pencil for writing? Okay, so I think the default will be a pencil. You'll be given a pencil. So don't worry, they'll give you the stationery. Well, can you wear a casual t-shirt? You can wear whatever you like. Of course, not naked. Just kidding. But you can wear anything. It's whatever you're comfortable in. But maybe bring something because it can be cold, or something to keep you a bit warm. Can you use first person in your essay? Yes, you can use I. You don't have to use, yeah, that's fine, totally fine. Are they going to compare my score to the previous exam? No, but every time you do it, it's a totally new thing. Last time I took the speaking, they didn't record my speaking. Oh my goodness, Gillian, that's a big mistake on the part of the examiners. I'm very sorry. It should always be recorded. Is it difficult to score 9 for general? So once again, Aliani, it depends where you are with your English. If you are already an expert in English, then you could score 9. Yeah, but 9 is perfect. So it means you're perfect. So you can't make any mistakes in any of the tests. For a first taker, how long do you need to review? So Jen, it really depends where you are now with your English and what band score you need to get. So it's a tricky question to answer. Computer-based IELTS reviewed by an examiner. Yeah, of course, the writing and the speaking is always done with the live examiner. The listening and the reading are marked by markers. It's because the answer is either right or wrong. So they are marked by clerical markers, yes. Okay, great. So I think I've got through all the questions there. Let me see, I think there's a few at the end. Which is more preferable, passive or active? That's neither. Whatever you feel comfortable in. I mean, in the essay, you can use passive or you can use active. It's fine. As long as it's more important to have good reasons and examples. So in the essay, it's probably always good to have 3 reasons and 3 reasons for if you're arguing, you're agreeing, I agree with this, then you need 3 reasons probably is a good idea, and maybe 1 or 2 reasons for the other side. Do you need to bring passport size photo? Okay, this one I'm not sure, Nishant. You might want to contact the testing center. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe my colleagues can answer that for you. I'm not sure so much about the admin part. Pencil and pen, I think I've answered all these questions. Okay, great. So thank you very much, everybody, for your wonderful questions. Tips for someone who has a habit of daydreaming. Yes, particularly in the listening, you need to remind yourself to focus. So I always use my pencil. If I'm doing paper-based, put my pencil on the question to keep me staying focused. Or on the computer, you can click on use your mouse to go through to keep you focused. Yeah. All right. So, but often when you're nervous, you won't daydream. So you're like, ooh, this will make you more alert. I have 2 more questions here. What's the most polite way to ask the examiner to explain the question? So you can say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you clarify? That's a nice way to ask them to say it again. Yeah. What should I do if I'm running out of time in the writing? Yeah, so, okay, if you're running out of time in the writing, hopefully you won't run out of time. If you practice enough, you'll learn how to manage your time. But if you do, then yeah, maybe try at least to have a couple of reasons and a conclusion. Yeah, but that's why it's very good to have plenty of time to learn how to do the writing and don't worry about the time, and then practice and get faster, and then practice writing to time. Okay, so we're going to have a webinar on Wednesday, which is all about the writing. So if you can come along to that, there'll be lots of tips for writing. Can you indent? Yeah, you can indent or you can do block paragraphs. Both are perfectly fine. There's a couple more questions. Overall band, is each component equally weighted? That's right. So you get an overall IELTS skill score from the 4 tests and it's averaged out. That's right. Is it a good idea to choose partially agree if I can't find 3 reasons? Yeah, you could do partially agree, then you could argue 2 and 2. That's fine as well. Okay, great. All right, so hopefully I'll see you on Wednesday maybe for the writing webinar. And some things will be a bit of a review, but we'll go into a lot more detail. All right, so take care. And keep well, keep safe. Thanks so much for being with me. Oh, I see a few more questions. Oh, you guys have got lots of questions. What do you do on the day before your exam? I think you just need to relax. I don't think you know, maybe do some speaking. If we memorize some phrases and use them during the speaking, are they going to be easily heard and considered as rehearsed? Yeah, this is an interesting question. So don't memorize too many answers, but some answers like, oh, that's an interesting question, or could you clarify that for me? Those things are fine. Yeah, but don't memorize the answer to all the questions. Okay, great. So thank you so much. I'm going to head off now. Take care. Have a lovely evening. Bye. And I want to thank all the wonderful helpers who managed so many questions with so many people. So that was Na and Diva and Ruchikan and Patrick. I see Patrick there. Thank you so much. And Son Mai as well. Yes. And Diva. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And a huge thank you to Jackie for walking us through today's webinar, and to all our co-hosts. We hope to see you all this Wednesday in our writing workshop. Have a great night, everyone. See you.
See you, Lila. Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.